Hey everyone. Before this video starts proper, I just want to say a few words about a certain legend of my childhood that has sadly passed away. For those of you that haven't heard the news yet, country singer Toby Keith has passed away at the age of 62 after a battle with cancer. This news came unexpectedly. Of course, none of us expected it. But I'm not crying. It's allergies. I promise you. I cried earlier, but being as one of those kids that grew up in the 2000s, Mr. Keith and his music was a pretty big part of my childhood. Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, Beer for My Horses, I Want to Talk About Me, Red Solo Cup, and even later on with stuff like Happy Birthday America. Like, I was always listening to Toby, and I was always excited to see what he was going to come up with next. He was a true patriot. He was a supporter of our troops, and from what I've heard, he was a tough but really nice guy. And it sucks that he's gone, man. Like, it sucks, but unfortunately it's just a part of life. At some point we're all gonna go to that place, but best thing we can do right now is to honor his memory. Yes, I know that this is a Danny Phantom review first and foremost, but I just had to say something about this because I originally wanted to do this as a separate video, but considering how far behind I am right now, that just doesn't really seem like the most optimal option. So, consider this opening my tribute to him. And may he rest in peace. I thank him for all the music and all the memories that he has made. And while he may have been a bit of a tough guy, deep down he was a good friend to many people, and his legacy will live on through his music, just like every artist that has sadly passed away. So rest in peace, Mr. Keith, and thank you for everything that you've done. See you on the other side. Amen. Okay, sorry for the heavy introduction, but I just need to say my piece about that because I know I was going to get asked about it by some of my friends, so there's my stance on it. It's sad, but he's in a better place now. So, with it all the way, welcome back to Animation Station. Welcome to the big double-parter, the first double-parter of Danny Phantom's history, with Rainstorm. This is a two-parter, but since its original airing, it has been edited into just one giant 48-minute long episode. Yes, 48 minutes, about the length of one of the Dragon Ball Z movies, believe it or not. So, also apologies if I sound a little bit nasally. My allergies sometimes like to kick me in the tail during the evening, so please forgive me if I sound nasally or sniffle a lot. Okay, with all that said, I can't even really do a big lead-in for this one, aside from the fact that this is the first ever two-part special in Danny Phantom's history. There were no two-parters in Season 1. And it is a behemoth of an episode. What do I think about it? Well, let's not even start with the plot summary. Let's just go straight into the synopsis, because a lot happens in this 48-minute long special. And yes, I'm treating it as a special because it is double length. and also because I implemented the same rules when I reviewed the SpongeBob specials. Even if even if a special is a two-parter, I'm going to include it as just one giant review. So strap yourselves in. This one's going to be a pretty long, very, very long video. So strap in, grab some popcorn, grab a drink if you need to. Pause this video whenever you need to, go off and do whatever. And let's dive into this massive behemoth of an episode. Vlad Plasmius is in the ghost zone of Pariah's Keep, looking for the Ring of Rage and the Crown of Fire, ancient artifacts that belonged to Pariah Dark, one of the most powerful ghosts in the history of the ghost zone. Vlad manages to find the Ring of Rage easily, but when he goes for the Crown of Fire, he opens the sarcophagus of forever sleep that Pariah Dark was sealed in, reawakening the Ghost King. After trying to make a deal with the Fright Knight, Vlad starts to run away from Pariah, but is shot with an ectoplasmic beam and thrown straight through the Fenton's ghost portal. In the Fenton Works lab, Jack and Maddie work on the Fenton ectoskeleton. Get it? Like exoskeleton, ectoskeleton, ha ha ha, puns. A battlesuit designed to beat back even the most powerful of ghosts. Vlad crash lands nearby and struggles for Jack's help. Danny heads to school, happy he stopped ghosts and finishes his homework on time. His happiness ends when Dash and Quan chuck a football at him. Danny retaliates back by shooting a small ghost ray to knock a sign down in their path and later stuffing Dash's locker with toilet paper. Dash, angry for obvious reasons, chases Danny into the cafeteria. He hides under a table inhabited by geeks in the cafeteria. He also finds Valerie under that same table, hiding from Nathan because he keeps asking Valerie to the senior prom, despite it being 3 years away. I mean, better early than never, right? Danny and Valerie start a friendly conversation, finding out they have more in common than they realized at first. After school, the two continue running from their current problems. They come across Sam hiding from her mother, who wants her to try on a perky dress. Because, Sam's not at all about that kind of style. Sam isn't too pleased to see them hanging out together, worried for Danny's sake as the three run to hide in the Fenton household. Inside, however, Danny gets a surprise when he sees Vlad in the living room with his parents and Jazz. Vlad reveals his plan aloud to steal the ectoskeleton that Jack and Maddie had been working on, merely claiming he is joking. Classic Vlad. You get classic Vlad in this episode, and it's just as great as you think it is. Afterwards, he turns his attention to Valerie, who is shocked that Vlad knows her, as is Danny. An alert goes off. I think it's supposed to be alarm, but I guess the wiki is just not proofread, with Maddie claiming that a huge ghost attack is on its way. While Danny goes into the ghost portal to stop the ghost, Sam and Jazz trip the parents to buy Danny some time so he can transform into Danny Phantom. Meanwhile, Vlad converses with Valerie. Danny then heads to the basement lab. To his relief, the box ghost pops out. Funny little subversion having him be the first one to pop out of the portal. Then more ghosts, most of whom he's fought previously from the first season, which is really cool, comes out of the Fenton portal, escaping the ghost zone. Danny and Skulker fight and they end up outside, though Sidney Poindexter expresses that Pariah Dark is a more important threat. That doesn't stop the ghost from attacking Danny naturally, causing him to nearly fall unconscious and transform back into his human half. Meanwhile, Vlad tells Valerie that he supplies her with ghost hunting gear because he's impressed by her abilities and determination, and gives her the Ring of Rage for reasons he does not yet say. Meanwhile, in the ghost zone, Pariah Dark readies his giant skeleton army. The next day at school, Dash messes with Danny some more, causing him to further abuse his ghost powers on Dash, something Sam is not too keen on. In her own words, becoming the bully rather than being the one that is being bullied. Or something like that. It's a bit of a convoluted line of dialogue. Back at the Fenton lab, the Fright Knight takes Maddie captive. Jack uses his incomplete ectoskeleton to quickly beat up the Fright Knight and rescue Maddie, though the ectoskeleton drains him of his energy and nearly kills him. Yeah, I don't think Jack thought that one through. Pariah's ghost army attacks Amity Park, causing a widespread panic. In the meantime, all the ghosts take this time to claim a new haven, invading various stores in the human world to hide in, except Sydney, who feels they're merely bullying their way in. Tucker and Sam express their concern about Danny spending time with Valerie. Danny, however, enjoys her company. Valerie, who comes from behind, thinks the same of him too, starting a bit of a developing friendship/crush that continues on through the season. Danny's ghost sense then goes off, so he runs only to bump into Dash. Using his ghost powers again, Danny overshadows Dash and smashes him into the lockers repeatedly. I like how Danny just doesn't take Dash's crap in this episode. It's a really interesting heel turn. Then he resumes running off and finds Vlad. Vlad points out how Danny used his powers to get revenge on bullies, and that Danny and Vlad are not so different, both using their powers for personal gain. They then fight, naturally. While Danny fights off Vlad, Valerie makes note of Sam's crush on Danny, warning her she better make a move before someone else does. Tucker, Sam, Danny's parents, and Valerie's father, Damon Gray, watch reports about the ghost invasion on TV. So, yeah, everything's just going nuts. Vlad leads Danny to the football field where Vlad tells him he has a much bigger threat to fight off as Fright Night and his army have arrived. Vlad helps Danny fight off the Fright Night and his army. As they fight, Valerie comes along and attacks the two, but Danny manages to persuade her to trust him temporarily and fight alongside him. Temporarily. The Fright Night puts his sword in the ground and states a royal decree of the Ghost King, which creates a massive ghost shield around the entire city. He states that the barrier will only be removed if the humans give up the Ring of Rage, and any human removing the sword generating the barrier is an act of surrender. Valerie continues to fight the Fright Night, only for her to be knocked unconscious. So, props to her for being valiant and continuing the fight. Not valiant. But she does lose. Afterwards, Maddie arrives in the Fenton RV with Damon and the other parents to collect their kids. At the Fenton household, Vlad helps Maddie build the rest of the ectoskeleton while Sam and Tucker discuss with Danny further on his close contact with Valerie, thinking the ring on her finger is being used for ghost detection. Danny realizes the ring is the one Fright Night mentioned, and the trio leave to gather more information. They find Skulker and Danny and him fight, naturally, again. Sydney quickly breaks it up by telling Skulker that Danny could help them. Skulker takes Danny, Sam, and Tucker into the hideout where all of Danny's enemies in the Ghost Zone are staying, i.e. every single villain except for Technus from the very first season. Which is really, really cool. It's a cool visual, and it's cool having all these characters back, including Ember, and she has an actual role this time. Skulker then tells them all about Pariah Dark, a powerful ghost who ruled the Ghost Zone with an iron fist. In other words, he's a tyrant. Drawing unlimited power from the Ring of Rage and the Crown of Fire, until a desperate move got him to be sealed for all eternity. Or so it seemed until Vlad decided to reawaken him. Obviously it wasn't intentional, but that's what happens. Danny afterwards tries to get all the ghosts to ally with him and fight Pariah, but they merely laugh it off and leave, causing Danny to have to go at it alone. Later near his house, Danny requests for Vlad and confronts him, asking for the ring back, leading the two to fight each other again, going back to the football field from earlier, again, while Vlad continues to manipulate Danny, stating he is more like him than he knows. Kind of a bit of a foreshadowing considering what episode is coming, closer and closer by the minute. You know which one I'm talking about. It's arguably the best and most dark, twisted episode of the entire series. But we will get there when we get there. Vlad's mocking frustrates Danny, causing him to pull out Fright Night's sword to fight him with. This activates the decree of Pariah, pulling the entire town into the Ghost Zone. The invading ghosts resume their march, and Fright Night and Pariah both arrive. Pariah easily defeats Vlad and Danny, pretty much effortlessly. Jack and Maddie announce the town to hide under the Fenton Ghost Shield, which Damon increases the size of as well as sends out a ghost probe. Pariah Dark would have destroyed Danny and Vlad if it were not for Valerie, who comes and rescues the two while sending the ring flying away on a missile. Pariah heads for the ring while Fright Night gives chase until she manages to get over to the other side of the fence and Ghost Shield. She then takes the two to Danny's room where she rests herself from her own injuries. Pariah captures the missile and puts on the ring, regaining his full powers. In other words, big yikes. Vlad leaves using his intangibility by the time Jack and Maddie come to check on Danny and Valerie, assuming they're just hanging out. After leaving, Danny wakes up and is reunited with his friends Tucker and Sam, whereas he shares his guilt for not fixing his problem sooner. Seeing it as his responsibility, he heads to the basement with Sam and Tucker watching from above as his parents and the other adults discuss the ectoskeleton. In other words, they're making it a bit blatantly clear he's going to try to steal it, to try and fight off Pariah by himself. Every parent, as well as Jazz, argues over who gets the suit, knocking each other senseless. Classic cartoon slapstick. Danny then heads over to get the suit, only for Valerie to block his path. When Damon comes downstairs, Danny takes advantage of this and removes her mask, thus buying enough time to go intangible and grab the ectoskeleton, while Damon berates his daughter for her current dangerous job as a ghost hunter. Yep, this is the episode where Valerie is exposed to her dad for, one, lying, and two, for being a ghost hunter. That is something I was not expecting until, much later in the season, but it happened now, for whatever reason, so... Yeah, pretty interesting bombshell they decided to drop there. Danny prepares for battle atop the Fenton roof while Tucker and Sam watch emotionally, afraid for him due to the suit's unreliability, and the fact that it almost killed Jack earlier. Danny tries to reassure them but asks if they have anything to say. Sam tries to express her feelings for him, again that crush developing, but Pariah appears giving a message to the humans. Danny then goes off to fight as he goes ghost, giving the ectoskeleton a touch of his own personality. In other words, he turns the ectoskeleton into an actual ectoskeleton connected to his ghost DNA, which allows him to use his ghost powers with the combination of the suit itself. And the suit itself looks really freaking sick in his normal colors. He then gets Tucker to prepare to lower and raise the ghost shield as he leaves. Everyone cheers on Invisible, to which Danny corrects as Danny Phantom, before heading off to fight Pariah. Pariah's castle is guarded by a seemingly infinite number of skeleton ghosts, and Danny uses a lot of his energy trying to destroy them. Though when it appeared he had no chance, Sam and Tucker arrive in the Spectre Speeder, where they drop off many of Danny's ghost enemies from earlier, all who help Danny fight off the enemy and get him into the castle. There's no highlights in this episode, just a heads up. There's just too many great moments to count in this two-parter, but that is a really awesome part, where we get to see Danny and all the enemies, again except Protectness, from Season 1 of Danny Phantom all reunite together to fight against a common enemy. And it's just as epic and awesome as you think it is. Once inside, Danny finds Pariah where he begins to battle him as the suit slowly drains away his life force. While Pariah puts up a good fight, Danny duplicates himself for the first time thanks to the suit extending his power to easily outmatch him. When Pariah regains the upper hand, Danny removes his crown and stuffs Pariah back into the sarcophagus of eternal sleep. As Pariah fights to get out, Danny struggles to keep him in the suit, nearly draining away his life as he does so. Just as Danny's strength runs out and it looks like he's about to die, basically, Vlad locks Pariah inside, putting him back to sleep and returning Amity Park to Earth. Afterwards, Danny passes out. When Danny wakes up in his room, he finds himself surrounded by his family, Sam, Tucker, Valerie, Damon, and Vlad. Maddie expresses how Vlad rescued him, no longer hating him for doing such a kind thing. Later on, the news states the current recovering of Amity Park as well as Invisible, now understood to be Danny Phantom, to be a hero to the majority of Amity Park, with the majority of his supporters up to 64%. The next day at school, feeling guilty for abusing his powers, Danny goes to apologize to Dash, who then hangs him on a flagpole by his underwear, as Dash's own way of accepting his apology. Meanwhile, Valerie goes to Tucker and Sam, saying she is starting to like Danny, something neither Sam nor Tucker actually enjoys. As a result, they send Nathan after her. And that, my friends, is the giant behemoth that is the plot of Rainstorm. For the first two-parter of this show, it is an incredible two-parter. Like, what an awesome special for the series. It was intense, it was dark, it was action-packed, it was funny, it had some heartfelt, cute moments, and it was all around just an awesome freaking watch. Like, again, like I said, I can't pick highlights here. There's just too many great moments in this episode. If I had to pick one, it's that I wish that Pariah didn't go out so easily after Danny duplicates himself. Like, after Danny does that, pretty much pulling off what Vlad's been doing since his introduction, after that, Pariah's kind of just annihilated for pretty much the rest of the fight. And yes, he would have busted back out if Vlad did not lock him back in there right before Danny passed out, but at the same time, for all his cool foreboding energy and his really cool Ghost Pharaoh design, like, they could have done a bit more with that fight. That's really my one and only gripe with this episode. And then the rest is just minor nitpicks, like some of the ghosts get less time than others. Ember is part of the actual plot this time to a degree, but it's not that big of an improvement from Pirate Radio, unfortunately, but I'm pretty sure that this is far from the last time we'll see her. And not to mention, like I said before, just seeing all the ghosts, again except for Technus, from Season 1 all coming back to fight together against who they think is their sworn enemy. Like, that is an awesome concept that they really pulled off well here, execution-wise. And then there's, of course, the one little nitpick that when Danny first arrives at Pariah's castle and we see the giant skeleton ghost army, it's CGI. It's 3D CGI mixed with 2D characters, and it looks weird. It was a thing back in the 2000s, I know, but it still just looks a bit weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just one of those guys that's always going to prefer 2D over 3D to an extent. But that one part of the episode was a bit confusing. But granted, it's just that one scene that's CGI. Outside of that, it's mainly the same great 2D animation that the series has been known for. So, I guess all we can do now is finish it off with continuity and some trivia. And there's a decent bit of each in this one. All of Danny's main villains return except Youngblood, Kitty, and Freakshow, as Youngblood's trapped underwater still. And like I said, Technus isn't in this episode either. At least not that I could see. I never spotted him. So, Technus wasn't in there, Youngblood wasn't in there, and then Kitty and Freakshow weren't in there either. So, it's not every single past villain, but it's the majority of them. Danny battles with King Pariah is later referenced in the episode Infinite Realms as the reason for Frostbite and his people's great respect towards Danny and the title Savior of the Ghost Zone that they give to him. Danny is mistakenly called Invisible, a reference to Lucky in Love from Season 1, and it is revealed that Maddie is still mad at Vlad due to the events of Maternal Instinct, which she dumps tea on him twice in this episode. Both times is pretty funny. And then trivia. The title is a pun on Rainstorm. I mean, I thought that was obvious, but okay. The hiding place of the ghosts is, well, the box shop for the box ghost, Nasty Burger for the lunch lady from Mystery Meat, the instruments store, obviously, for Ember, the hunting shop for Skulker, and then Unknown for Dora, Desiree, Spectra, Bullet, and all the other ghosts. Strangely, Shadow is present without Johnny 13. That was a bit weird, I'm not gonna lie. Danny is officially given his ghost's name Danny Phantom in this episode. From there on in, now everyone calls him Danny Phantom instead of Invisible or just the Ghost Boy. So, that's pretty cool. Danny successfully duplicates himself for the first time with the aid of the ectoskeleton. This is the first time he did it, and like I said, it's not the first time I've seen a character do it in Danny Phantom, as it's one of Vlad's most well-known techniques. As a result of his actions, Danny Phantom is now seen as a hero to the city except his parents and Valerie, who all still think that he's a villain. But the majority now thinks he's a hero, so now he doesn't have to worry about, getting attacked on the street by civilians or anything like that. And then, as of this episode, Damon now knows Valerie has been a ghost hunter, thanks to Danny. And that continues into the rest of the episodes. Because yes, it does have a Saturday morning feel to it with a different villain almost every episode, but it is a continuing continuity show. This is a show with a continuity and a canon. It just takes the format of a Saturday morning cartoon in order to express that canon. So, yeah, how long has this been now? I feel like I've been talking forever. Only 25 minutes. Wow, only 25 minutes? 26 minutes? Okay. I honestly thought this was going to be a half hour, but I guess not. Even with my little, extended intro. But, my overall thoughts on Rainstorm, this is arguably one of the best episodes in Danny Phantom. Not only because it's a two-parter, but because it is the first two-parter. It is an epic episode all throughout, and it takes all the best elements that make Danny Phantom such a fantastic show and puts them all together into just this one giant conglomerate of an episode. Yes, I do have some little minor nitpicks like 3D CGI for Pariah's Castle, or the little minor gripes with the final battle against Pariah itself, but outside of that, this episode is fantastic, and I implore anyone who, for whatever reason, has not seen it yet, to seek it out immediately. But just make sure that you watch Season 1 and all the other previous episodes of Season 2 to get context, and you're not lost in the continuity of what's going on. Except for Pirate Radio, you can skip that one. That was pretty much nothing but a filler episode. So, final verdict for Rainstorm is going to be a 19 out of 20. Yes, like I said, I am using the double score thing from my SpongeBob special reviews, and I'm also reviewing this two-parter as one episode like I did with my Miraculous series. So, it's like a combination of two of my series review series into one. So, it's a 19 out of 20. This is a fantastic episode, and for whatever reason you have not watched it yet, watch it immediately. It is arguably one of the best episodes in all of Danny Phantom. It's a favorite of many. It is still a fan favorite to this day. And it's crazy that this isn't even the best of the two-parters. Because, yeah, you guys know which one's coming. It's not going to be up next, not yet. We still have 2 more episodes to go before that, but you guys know what episode's coming, and it's arguably the most well-known, fan-favorite, darkest, and most terrifying episode of Danny Phantom. So, yeah, but like I said, we will get there when we get there. We're going to take it an episode at a time, just like I said. Okay, and that is my full, complete thoughts on Rainstorm. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this episode in the comments down below, or just Danny Phantom in general, or if you just want to say hi. I'm always open to suggestions, and I just love hearing your guys' feedback for these videos after all the hard work that I do put into these videos almost every single day. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time when we take a look at a much less structurally complex episode in Identity Crisis, aka the one where Technus actually returns. See you then. Until next time, I'm going Ghost.